Hello and welcome to episode 4 of our 2019-2020 season review. I'm joined once again by Daryl Carter. We're going to be looking at the first half of December. Action comes thick and fast. You'll see that in the second episode that we do. We're actually only covering 10 days of December, but it takes up its own episode. We're going to try and condense them a little bit because I'm aware that they've been going on a bit longer than is maybe viable for people to be watching. So with that said, and without further ado, I'm just going to get straight on the action. Is that okay with you, Daryl?
Yeah, crack straight on, mate.
Boom. So, 1st of December, Fairy House had a really decent weekend racing. But on the 1st of December, we got to see Envoy Alan go and win the Royal Bond Novice Hurdle. So, in that particular race, he gave Abacadabras a fair enough beaten just over a length. I mean, it's just going to be easy to say with this horse each time we're seeing him winning the build-up to Cheltenham. But I was pretty impressed by his performance, the way he quickened away. As much as Abacadabras travelled nicely into the race, looked like he was going to probably give him a bit of a scare. He didn't. Envoy just looked a beast, and still at this point, I've got no reason to think he's going anywhere other than the Ballymore.
This was actually the point for me where I took him on next time out. Because I thought he looked really tired at the end of this race because it was on soft ground, softer than, well, it was yielding the soft ground, but I just thought he tired towards the end, and they were talking about stepping him up and trip, and then I was thinking Ballymore. I was thinking, I think he wants that sort of test. But so I took him on next time out in Nace, but he absolutely hosed up, and I could not have got him more wrong. This is the type of horse that I'm normally always trying to look to take on because everybody's on his bandwagon. It's only his second start I've ever heard it was on it, and everyone was just like, "This is a superstar. This is a superstar." I was like, "Oh, come on, we can get this beat." But it turns out he's actually a superstar, doesn't it? So, but yeah, I learned a lesson there. Not just because he's tired at the end of 2 miles doesn't mean that they don't want a little bit further. So I did learn a harsh lesson there next time out.
Yeah, and I think it was one of those. I was pretty, like I say, Abacadabras travelled into it nicely. And you'd think as they were coming into the last, I can see why you were probably thinking maybe to take him on next time out. It did look like Abacadabras was going to give him a proper scare, and he did. Obviously, knowing what we know now of how well that horse has gone and run in the Supreme after, it just goes to show how good a race that was. Happy days. But also on that particular day, on the 1st of December, so it's only the first we're talking about, we had the Drinmore Novices Chase. Billed to be clash of probably like some sort of novice chase in Titans. It was Fakir Doodery versus Sam Crow. In the clip that I'll have put in, I mean, I don't particularly like putting horses that fall, but we know Sam Crow was all right after. You'll hear the commentator, it was the clash, the spectacle we wanted it to be. I think it was 2 out where Sam Crow came a cropper. I think Sam Crow had him covered. What did you think?
I wasn't too sure because Sam Crow hadn't been the strongest of finishers prior to that, had he? I don't know. The race is a really good race every year, though. I knew that going into it. So whoever does win that race or runs particularly well in that race is worth noting going forward. I don't know. I still don't know, to be honest. I still probably couldn't tell you. But Fakir won and won well in the end. He didn't look like he was stopping, though, for me, Fakir. So it would have been a battle to the line, but he carried on quite strongly through the last couple of furlongs. So he was a worthy winner on the day. Sam Crow fell. What can you say?
Exactly, and that's what it's all about, and it is all about jumping. And they are obviously novices. It gets to test them out. Obviously, later on, we see with what happened with Champ, makes a mistake in the dipper. It can be the making of horses. So as much as we look at it and think, oh, horses falling over hurdles, Shishkin did it, and we see horses falling over fences, it's obviously not ideal. You'll see stats banded about everywhere saying why they can't win races at Cheltenham because they've fallen. But I don't mind it too much. But also on that day, we had the Hatton's Grace Hurdle. Honeysuckle was unreal. Like, this is, I know she obviously won at Cheltenham, she wins the mares, which was I can't say it's a bad performance because she goes and beats Benny as she liked. But this, for me, was her performance of last season. She was unreal. And it was at that point that I was thinking, oh, it's all at Fairy House still. I was still a little bit like, oh, maybe I want to maybe take her on if they were thinking of going Champion Hurdle route with her. But you just couldn't get away with just, she was so impressive. And I know she's only beaten Bacardis, but she was good, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was very, very good. It was the whole left-handed, right-handed thing at that time, wasn't it? Will she go left-handed? But she was so impressive this day. I backed her for the Champion Hurdle after this. Obviously, she didn't go that route, but I just thought she looked so speedy. She was just outstanding. That really got the excitement flowing for Honeysuckle. a total believer until that performance at Fairy House. So yeah, but second grade 1 win on it. It was really, really impressive. I mean, I don't know what more to say really.
No,
It's hard. I mean, I always like to question a horse when they beat something by like 9 or 10 lengths, but she was just outstanding. There was no excuses for any other horses on the day.
no, and that's the thing. Like I said, I thought it was very good. It does. We'll twist on it later when we come to see her running the Dublin Racing Festival when she does go for the Irish Champion Hurdle, because I kind of went back on myself a little bit. I was very impressed with this, but I still was just the fact it's still Fairy House. It's still 2.5 miles. She's still got to go left. It's a different kettle of fish in the Champion Hurdle. But this was the point where I started thinking, well, maybe she could be a Champion Hurdle horse. But we'll leave it as that. Because also on that day, we had the Bar 1 Racing Juvenile Hurdle. So it's just a cracking start to the beginning of the month. Cerberus goes and wins that. I mean, it is technically only a grade 3. I'm reluctant with juveniles. I'll say this, and people will go back and find some posts of me getting excited about All Mankind and horses like that, and the a couple of years back. But I'm just reluctant when horses are winning juveniles this far away from the festival to how that's going to pan out as the rest of the season goes on. He was impressive. There's no getting away from that. I don't know. I didn't expect him to not win a race since that point. I think he's had 5 spins after. But it wasn't the sort of performance where I'm thinking, I want to be backing him for a triumph. It was just, okay, he's won, he's beaten some other Irish horses. I wasn't overly blown away, I think, with that.
Yeah, no, I was the same. I thought it was a decent performance, but like you, at this sort of time of the year, beginning of December, you are sort of worried about what they are beating really in terms of juveniles. Notoriously, the better juveniles tend to come out in January time. We'll cover that in another episode, but. Any sort of juvenile winning at the beginning of December, I would just be a bit wary of it, because they always tend to shoot to the top of the triumph market as well. So I would just worry about that going forward. But it was an impressive performance. Nothing that it didn't blow me away.
See, if only we were involved with JP McManus, we probably could have saved him a few quid, because he snapped him up after that, didn't he? And then they went and ran at Chepstow. Like I say, he's obviously a nice horse. But yeah, I wasn't blown away with it. Then we can move on to the following weekend, because at this time of year, it literally is every single weekend there is top class racing. Then the following weekend is at Sandown. It's the Tingle Creek weekend, but there's also decent racing at Aintree. Before that, on the Fridays, the Winter Novices Hurdle. Now, a couple of years ago, I put a whole piece on there about saying that just don't get overexcited about Winter Novice Hurdle winners at Sandown, because it's not the best feeder race for festivals, for any spring festival, to be fair. Sometimes horses that have been beaten in the race turn out to be better ones as things go on. But all of that said, I did put up in Rillo on the day for that. I was fairly impressed with him. Because he's looked so babyish. He still looked a bit babyish in there. He gets the job done. He beats House Island, who I think is a nice enough horse. But I mean, this is going to sound harsh to that horse after saying I think he's nice enough. I think that kind of plays down the level of the Winter Novices Hurdle. There's a couple of other ones in behind that I've pitched up as horses to follow this season, because I think it probably is an okay-ish race in terms of depth, although I've just blown that away. I said obviously it doesn't lead into the festivals, but I just thought Enrilo was okay, but it's the Winter Novices Hurdle. I can't get too excited about it yet. I'll think about it another day. Were you taken by the performance, or did you think much of it?
Wait then, you put him up that day, didn't you? How did you think he was going to turn around 34 levels of House Island?
Harry Cobden. Briley rode him Briley rode him before, and I remember because I watched the race. I didn't back him, but I watched it because I expected Harry to be on. I've got a feeling Harry was jocked up in the week on it as well, because we watched him the time before, and he looks like a bit of I say a green horse. He might even just be a bit of a twat, but Briley was struggling to hold him in, going down the back. Harry Cobden, the first time he won, had to ride him to get him to travel. Then he started hanging off the bend, and they just didn't even bother trying with him. And this isn't any disrespect to Bryony Frost, but Harry Cobden's the number one jockey. If Harry Cobden thought Enrilo was going to be a beast, he would have gone on there. And I know he's just taken the ride in the Winter Novices Hurdle, because what else is he going to do on a Friday at Sandown? But I just thought there was enough in his first performance to suggest that he was probably overpriced. I pitched him in as maybe a 4 or 5 on poke. As I say, I don't think the race is as great as people think it is. And the fact that there was I think it was Happy Go Lucky of Kim Bailey's, who I have put as a horse to follow this season for over fences, but The fact that that was like a 9-4 favourite, and this was 12-1, I think, or 14s. Price was just wrong, so I was happy to take a bit of a poke on it.
Oh, I should have known. I should have known it was your best mate, Harry. I couldn't believe he won at 10-1 this day. I'll be honest with you, I was furious. I really, really fancied all the gin joints, who I think is going to be a nice horse going forward. But I just think he's one that's going to probably want a bit better ground. And Rillo just really ground it out, didn't he? It wouldn't surprise me if you saw him going over 3 miles this season. I think he's got a bit of talent, I do. But like you say, the time before, Bryony just couldn't keep hold of him. So you're probably just better off putting a line through that run. And then he just ground it out. Yeah, he just outstayed everything for me. I remember the day, it was really, really soft ground as well. The horses were coming home in a walk that day. So fair play to him. It was a nice enough performance. Not one that made me think, oh my God, I better back this for Cheltenham. But it was a nice performance on the day. It sort of was what it was. I remember just before we move on, just that day, I just remember this race actually. I actually thought this race was going to be quite a hot race at that particular time of the season. I mean, you had like Emma's Joy coming in here on the back of a really smart performance. Over the Top was really highly touted by Ollie Murphy. There were some decent horses in there. Happy Go Lucky, I was keen to take on, but all the gin joints for me was the one that I really fancied in that day. I remember that now. It springs back to you, doesn't it, when you start talking about it. But nice performance by Rillo. Nothing that set alarm bells ringing for Cheltenham that I need to get on the ends post and start putting out some bets. But yeah, nice performance.
Absolutely. And one of these years it will happen, because there's always some nice prospects that go there. One of these years it will happen. Something will win in there, it will bolt up, and it will go and win at the festivals. But for the time being, like you've just reiterated there, you'll get because it's a grade 2, you'll get some nice prospects in there, and we'll be thinking this looks like a pretty hot race. But then it always just seems to fizzle out, so it's not that great of a marker. So again, I'll play the race down again this season. Whatever goes and wins it, unless it's wide margin, I'll play it down. I'll just think that there's other targets for around that time of year. I'm just suggesting that maybe the trainers aren't sending their absolute top notches to the Winter's Novice Hurdle, and I think that's every year. I don't think they ever send them there. But one of these years it will change. Anywho, we'll move on to the Saturday. We'll move on to the Tingle Creek. Oh my word. I mean, there's obviously a different race order. There was stuff going on at Aintree, all those bits and pieces, but Jesus, the Tingle Creek Dazzler. I don't know why I did it. Underso, the age that he is, I ended up backing Underso. I think it was more the fact that we talked about Deffy and the Schloer before. I thought that's it. That's his conditions. 2 miles, it suits the horse that stays a little bit further around there. Everything was in his favour. I kind of thought, you know what, he could run well in the Tingle Creek. I half wanted him to get beaten in the Tingle Creek just for the sake of it. Maybe that he wouldn't go champion chase route, because to me, he was starting to look like he was a champion chaser. I know that sounds a bit bizarre. You might be thinking, well, let him go and win in Tingle Creek and then jump on him for the Queen Mother. But I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I wasn't 100% convinced about him. But after the Tingle Creek performance, I was seriously blown away. And I know Waiting Patiently stays on and gets there close. I still think Waiting Patiently is a half decent horse. Underso, that's probably as good as he's run. Even forget his age or whatever, that's as good as I've seen him run. Deffy just ground it out and got it done, and it actually just made me think, geez, Deffy's a proper 2-miler.
This was one of the best races. We was there, weren't we, for this at Sandown? Because I was on duty for tipping one at Sandown, Tingle Creek leading for Sandown first meeting. This was one of the best races I saw live all last season. It was outstanding. Like, the crowd was going mental as they were battling up the Sandown Hill. It was unbelievable. I swear to God, God struck me down. I had tingles on the black. I know it's a tingle, but my hair was that. It was amazing, and I was on Underso as well. So I lost, and it was still one of the best races I've watched all season. It was outstanding. Underso, what a horse! Like, just was fantastic this day, and I really thought that Deffy de Saul could get in a little bit tight to some of his fences. And I thought at Sandown, with those railway fences down the back, you need to jump Sandown very, very well. And Underso, been there, done it, jumps beautifully. I thought he was going to jump him into submission. I really did. But Deffy de Saul still got into tight to a couple of his fences, pecked on landing at one stage, and then still managed to pick him up. That turn of foot he's got is absolutely outstanding. It really does make up for any sort of jumping frailties he's got. I was quite impressed with Waiting Patiently as well, staying on, but I thought the two really just emptied each other out up that hill, and I thought Waiting Patiently might have been a little bit flattered, but I still do think Waiting Patiently is a half decent horse, and I think Defi de Saw was still a very, very good horse. I put a line through what happened at the end of last season at Cheltenham. I'll just completely write that off because he was just really, really good this day. It was such a good race, honestly.
It really, I think, honestly, I think that was one of my favourite races of the whole of the season. But I still think it now. I thought it at the time. It just screams out. I know you can get staying horses that will win Tingle Creeks. I know, obviously, we've had some absolute legends that have gone and won it, and we've even got horses that go on and win Gold Cups off the back of it. But it just made me really, really think the speed that Defi showed from the last to the line. And I know, obviously, he went maybe a couple up, and then into so and Waiting Patiently come back a bit. But I just thought it showed that he is quick. He's definitely got some speed about him. I can't say the same about the Henry VIII Novices Chase, unfortunately, because Esprit de Large won that, and I kind of feel like I half missed an opportunity to back that horse because he was a reasonable price. It wasn't the greatest of renewals. We've had some really, really nice horses go in there and win it. Like I said, I just don't think it was the greatest of renewals, to be honest. I was left a little bit deflated after the race. Not the fact that Esprit de Large won it, like I say, at a reasonable price. I think he was 14s. It was more just the fact that I expect the novice, because that's the race, that happens before the 14 weeks. I just expected to see a future superstar. I thought, looking at the entries before the race, we weren't going to see a superstar. The fact that it was Esprit de Large and Nube Negra in the finish, regardless of how they pulled clear, I wasn't really interested in the race before it happened. And I know this sounds really snobbish, but for the fact of looking towards the spring festivals, I wouldn't even consider either of those horses for an entry either. I just thought, okay, well done, you've gone and got your Grade 1 win, but none of you are going to win another Grade 1 this season.
I wouldn't be so quick to write off Esprit de Large. Honestly, I thought him winning this over 2 miles even screamed even more that he wants 2.5 miles. So I think he's got a little bit more to come. But on this particular day, I was on Nube Negra, who had jumped outstandingly up to this point, and it just wasn't good enough for the day. Grand Sancy, obviously making his chase debut in this race, he was never, I think if you're back to Torpedo, you'd be very disappointed that Grand Sancy finished in front of him, really. But I knew this track doesn't suit Torpedo. He gets in tight to his fences. He's got low front legs when he jumps a fence, clips it, loses ground every single fence. So he was never going to be suited to this particular track. And yeah, after the race, I was a little bit deflated, really. I thought Nube Negra, for me, out of the novices at that particular point in the season, had on my spreadsheets, on everything that I do on the novice chases, had done the best of everybody. And he was still beaten. So at that point, I sort of writ off the English novice chasers almost, in terms of they're going to really struggle this year, because the way I had Nube set up on my spreadsheet was this was the best of the best at this particular point. And there was no reason why Nube Negra, apart from perhaps the rain getting into the ground and it being too soft for him, that he should not have won that race. So for me, that was the point of the season where, right, let's look for the Irish novice chasers that's going to go and win at the festivals. Other than obviously camp, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, and we obviously watched that together as well. But like I say, I wasn't exactly excited about it being looking at the entries being a Grade 1. This isn't to play it down or anything, but normally we get some sort of superstar in there. If Esprit de Large could have won that by 7 or 8 lengths, then maybe I'd have been a bit more taken by just for the the visual distance. But yeah, I mean, I could have had him win it, although it was a 14-1 poke. I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but the fact that he did win it just shows that it probably isn't Grade 1 level.
Yeah, and I do think he wants further. I spoke to Dan Skelton straight after that race about Nube Negra. He was absolutely gutted that Nube Negra got beat there. And I said, Dan, do you think the rain's got into the ground and it's caused? He went, definitely. He said, this horse wants better ground than what he's got today. I said, okay, fair enough. But that was his excuse for the horse there. But still, for me, should have been winning that race. No, it weren't a bog, was it, that day? It was soft, but it weren't it weren't dire conditions. Like, I think Esprit de Large over a little bit further. I think you should give him another chance this year.
I don't know. It'll be open company, won't he? We'll see. But we've got some decent racing over in Aintree as well. So that's the beautiful thing about the Tingle Creek meeting. We get the Betcher Chase over at Aintree as well. Walk in the Mill won that again. Cracking race. I mean, I actually felt a bit stupid for not even having a bet in the race, because I probably could have been sheed onto him. Sky Bet were probably doing some sort of ridiculous money back if your dog doesn't do a wee this weekend, and I didn't even have a bet. But one race I was interested in watching was the Many Clouds Chase, because I think I'm pretty sure Mike was wearing headgear, cheek pieces for the first time. He was going up against Native River. I can't even for the life of me remember what the prices were, but I remember back in Native River, so I think there must have been some sort of stupid rick about the prices. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I think I must have got odds against Native River, but I just couldn't have Mike bite. I know you can't predict this sort of stuff, and I'm going to say this and I sound like a clown anyway, but I brought one of my mates to stand down with me, because someone that's supposed to be going with me let me down. Brought a mate that's not huge into racing, came with me. He was talking about the betting. He said, I've got a few shorties to put in. And then he was talking about the Native River Mike Bite race, the fact that it was only a small field, there was a couple of short prices in there. He said, who wins that? And I just said to him, I don't even think Mike Bite will stand up round Aintree, because they put the headgear on. He's a bit of a twat of a horse, and we saw what we did in the RSA. As much as those sort of things can sharpen a horse up, I'm pretty sure there was a comment from Nicky Henderson saying that he hadn't even schooled him or anything. He just shoved them on for the sake of it. Maybe they were just in the horse box when he turned up at Aintree. But anyway, wasn't really keen on it. And he jumped sideways. He almost took Native River out as well. But I've already talked to you about the race, because Native River won this by literally a fence, didn't he? Black Corton was miles behind. Yeah. I was pretty impressed with the Native River winning that. As far as I was concerned, Native River's got a chance of going back and doing or running well in a Gold Cup. I mean, I know he'd have to go and regain a Gold Cup, but I like the performance. I expected it because I backed him. I didn't expect to win by that far, but hey ho, that's it. That was all I picked out from Aintree, to be honest. That I was right about Mike Bite falling. How ridiculous is that?
That is ridiculous.
Was there anything at Aintree that weekend you liked?
No, not really. I just don't know why they stuck the cheek piece on Mike Bite. If you're going to do that, you just drop him back to 2 miles and just let him go off his nut, don't you? I don't know why they did that. I don't know. They kept him on next time. They kept him on next time at Cheltenham, didn't they? For the in January, pulled up again there. No, for me, I couldn't have Native River. Couldn't have had him last year at any point, even when winning by 33 lengths. But I think the winning distance told you all you need to know about the race. So.
And that was a grade 2. Never mind. So that was about that. There was a race at Navan, Tornado Flyer, another one of my little guilty pleasures, won a novice chase. Made hard work of it, but got the job done. But on the Sunday where the Tingle Creek is, we get lots of, there's always like a Willie Mullins horse that comes with the Tingle Creek, but there's lots of races over in Ireland that have targets for them. So there's the Hilly Way Chase at Cork. Sometimes his best 2 miler might go there rather than come to the Tingle Creek if they don't travel. There's the John Durkin at Punchestown as well. And Willie Mullins did win both of them. Min won another John Durkin. Hardline came to him. I love Hardline. But Min slooshed him, didn't he? And Silas Emery in the Hilly Way Chase. I said it before about Silas Emery that I thought he could be a potential dark horse for a champion chase. After he goes and wins the Hilly Way Chase, why would you not think that he's going to be a champion chaser? I still think he's a bit of a live wire for it. We know that they ran him in the stupid champion hurdle with donkeys, with every horse that fell out. But yeah, I expected Silas Emery to win. He did. I kind of took Min a tiny bit. I thought Hardline might run a good race, and he did. But Min won nicely, didn't he? I think Top Notch won the Peterborough Chase as well at Huntingdon. Calto Rico was a massive price, ran him close, but it was little Top Notch's race to win. And then I think at Cork as well, there was a couple of other little races. A Mare's Novice Chase, Eddie May won. And then a Cork Stayers Novice Hurdle that Wells set up won. But yeah, Min and Silas Emery, they're probably the two to take from the Sunday's racing in Ireland. What did you make of their performances?
Yeah, I thought Silas Emery was looking pretty decent over fences. I loved exactly what he did. But again, I've never really been a big fan of him. He was the one in the back of my mind who I was thinking, right, like this could be a dark horse now. So he's one of those horses that you would probably not back, but you'd go into the festival with him in the back of your mind going, oh, just sit too far off the pace and come late, or unseat, don't fall, unseat or something. That's the type of horse he is for me. So when I saw him win that, I thought I don't want to back him anyway. Me backed him immediately after the John Durkin for the Ryanair. Great winner. It just improved for that extra half a mile. He was the best 2-miler around, bar Altior. I thought it was a no-brainer really at Cheltenham going forward. But yeah, it was impressive. But this sort of time of year, this is when I start really taking note of horses over in Ireland. I don't really watch anything during the summer. I won't watch anything in Ireland. Only up until December when I start then turning my head across the sea and starting looking at what they've got in comparison to what I've built up in terms of the English challenges. So, and then I'll try and relate them there. So the likes of the John Durkin's a great race to keep an eye on going forward this season. Every single season it produces decent horses. Or decent horses win it and then they go on to do useful things. So it's definitely another race to keep an eye on. Definitely one that produces winners. Definitely one that produces Cheltenham Festival contenders. So yeah.
Decent weekend's action all told, really, and I like that weekend as well because it's early on in December. We've had the Royal Bond, etc. We get to see the Tingle Creek. We get to see there's just some really nice horses always out that weekend. Following weekend is the international meeting at Cheltenham. Obviously, we love Cheltenham. There was a few results in there that didn't particularly go my way, so we'll probably just skip past those ones. But we've got to talk about Call Me Lord because this was the horse that can only go right-handed. Even Nicky Henderson's own admission wins left-handed at Cheltenham. I know Paul Keeley was talking about it beforehand. I'm pretty sure I read you talking about Call Me Lord before this race as well. So I'll let you go off.
Well, I really liked Call Me Lord for this race. He was just the best. He was just the best horse in the race. He had the strongest form in the race. He'd done everything you need a horse to do to win a race or to tip a horse or to back a horse. And the only concern was with people saying that he can't go left-handed. And I just thought it was absolute nonsense because he hadn't been tried left-handed. And he went left-handed fine over in France when he won in Compagnon or Compagne or however you say it. And didn't see what the issue was. He was available, I think, at something like just over 3-1. And I just couldn't see what the problem was with him. And everyone was like, no, he can't go left-handed. You're assuming he can't go left-handed because the trainers told you he can't go left-handed. So many trainers will tell you this horse don't go on soft ground and the horse go and bolt up on soft ground. I wouldn't listen to a word they say. I honestly wouldn't. I would just do your own research. And if the evidence is there to support the horse, then bang, the evidence is there to support the horse. Exactly what it was for Call Me Lord. Oh, we don't know if he's going to go left-handed. Shut up. He's gone left-handed in France. No issue at all. You're just downplaying his chances. That's all they're doing. So yeah, it was frustrating, but it was quite satisfying. And I know he only won by what was it, like a neck or something like that, or a head or something like that. Handy, but he won. He got the job done. So that was what counts. I think it was 7-2. I think I've got him at something like that. 7-2. He went off a short price. I know he went off a short price in that. More than 9-4, 2-1 or something. But yeah. I just couldn't believe it. Just don't listen to what these trainers. With all due respect to trainers, they're great at training the horses, but they don't always know what their horse wants, you know. So yeah, it was just. I'll remember that day. And then what happens after that is everyone then goes champion hurdle, champion hurdle, champion hurdle. So around December, you'll see any horse winning like any intermediate hurdle race or a grade 2 or something. They'll be going champion hurdle, champion hurdle. That's what everybody will talk about. But just take those sort of races, you know, just with a pinch of salt, really, because I know it was over course and distance and stuff, but the time figures weren't great. They weren't champion hurdle time figures sort of thing. As you saw in the champion hurdle when he went and ran there. But yeah, it's just a weird one. That was a really weird day.
Yeah, and it's frustrating. It gets frustrating because I can't remember what was my selection on the day for the post and all that. I can't remember this sort of stuff, but it wasn't Call My Lord. This was one of these races I just looked at it and I just felt like meh. It's the international hurdle. I think Brain Power won it the year before. It's definitely the sort of race like you picked up on there that you can find a winner in it and you can find a bit of value about it because people are just looking to take on horses for stupid reasons. It's a fact-finding mission for quite a few horses as well. You get a lot of horses stepping up in class to run in it. I mean, not to play it down, but it is only a grade 2, but you'll get horses in here that aren't going to ever win a graded race, probably turning up. Yeah, it was It was what it was, wasn't it? You were bang on with it. I should have listened. I just
Yeah,
didn't
and
do much in the race.
Kills was as well, because like, he was basically made a good case and just said basically you're getting about 4-1, 7-2 about a horse that may or may not go left-handed. That's your only question about him in a field where there was not a lot to like about many of them. So yeah, it was so strange.
It was the wrong price. Never mind. There was also the Bristol Novices Hurdle at Cheltenham. I can remember what I put up in this particular race because it didn't win. It's a 3-mile chase, 3-mile hurdle at Cheltenham. So it's the typical. We're looking forward to maybe Albert Bartlett prospects. Kilbrickan Storm won this race a few years back when I put him up. That was a much smaller field, but I put up Kilteely Briggs this day. Thought this would be the making of him. He was well beaten third on the day, so not a lot really more to say about the race from my perspective. But I didn't really look at that and think this is an Albert Bartlett winner, or potentially if they drop in trip, this is a Ballymore winner. The race just felt like it was what it was, and I do think year in year out. Obviously, we saw the price that Kilbrickan Storm went and won an Albert Bartlett after. It's not like the Winton Novices Hurdle. It's not necessarily going to be the standout particular trial looking forward towards Cheltenham, but it was a nice enough race. And to be fair, Redford Road stuck his head out and got the job done. Then Warthog won the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup. I know for a fact this was the day that is it Spirit of the Games. Bridget Andrews was riding. She was in front. She should have won. I think she thought she'd won. She got beat by Warthog. 40-1 Spirit of the Games went off as well. It was absurd. Was there with one of my pals. We were talking about it. I think it was like 16th or 20th the night before. And obviously Harry Cobden wasn't on, all those little bits and pieces. But we were just like, it's the wrong price. Like, he's way too big a price. So we had a token little bet on it. But like Bridget Andrews was in tears coming down Cheltenham. And as wonderful as it is, the long walk back past a crowd of people when you've had a winner, honestly, I could have just wrapped her up and just found a secret passage to take her out because she looked devastated. Harry obviously caught up. He was on Not That Tuesday, caught up with her, was giving her a cuddle. But it's moments like that when people say that jockeys don't care about riding winners, they don't care about the horse, all that sort of stuff. It's moments like that where you just think there's a lot more to this game than me just losing a fiver at 40s on that horse, because she should have won that as well. But she didn't, did she? I did feel sorry for her, though, bless her. It's not very often you see people crying. Maybe that's why women shouldn't be jockeys, but that's for another episode. Over in Ireland that weekend, Navan had some nice stuff. Latest exhibition was the main focus for the fact that it won the race. This was a pretty decent race. So where I played down a few of the Grade 2s over here, this has historically been a half decent hurdle, the Navan Novice Hurdle. My boy Six Shooter was in here. He came last. But I put a video up on the Friday, I think it was, or maybe Saturday, before I went to Cheltenham. Would have been Friday. No, it would have been Saturday. It's 2 days December. Put a video up basically saying, Andy Dufresne, I like him, don't get me wrong. I do just think latest exhibition was good the time before. I obviously love Six Shooter. I was just saying the price that Andy Dufresne was, probably you could play the pair against him. Andy Dufresne did get beat. Obviously, I was right again. But latest exhibition, to be fair to him, won it nicely. I don't think Andy Dufresne lost a great deal in defeat. As I say, I kind of expected it. I know the price would dictate something different, but it was probably at this. I mean, beforehand, I thought latest exhibition could be like an Albert Bartlett horse when he steps up. He did this over 2.5 miles, and I still thought he needed further. I was pretty impressed with him, to be honest. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I really liked him after this. I thought this. I thought he's a really, really nice type, and I still quite like him. You know, I think this performance was really good. It was at the time everyone was trying to work out whether Andy Dufresne had underperformed or latest exhibition was just a decent horse, and I think it's the fact that latest exhibition is a decent horse, and Andy Dufresne probably a little bit both. Where Andy Dufresne is probably not as good as everyone made out he was. This was the moment when Andy Dufresne's bubble burst beat at 1-3 on here, wasn't it? But I liked it. I liked latest exhibition. I did think after this that like sort of going a lot further, 3 miles was going to be his game. There was a lot of talk about him going to the Ballymore, wasn't there? Around this sort of time. But yeah, do you know one of the reasons that I wouldn't have backed him for the Ballymore? Because of his age. Do you remember you said to me Remember when Champ ran in the Ballymore, and you said that he can't win. He can't win because of his age. Do you know that has never left my mind? That for some strange reason, when they was all talking about the Ballymore, do you know the first thing I said to someone who asked me about it, was going for the Ballymore. I said, "Oh, he can't win because of his age."
And, and I know it's like it potentially can be like a trivial fact, but it's one of those things. 7-year-old going into a Ballymore, I mean, come second as much as they want, but you'll get certain types of horses that age-wise it might not matter for profile races, but for something like the Ballymore, the Supremes, they're like proper races. The Ballymore more than anything because of the distance, all that sort of stuff. People say with like the Albert Bartlett, oh, it's an attrition, you want a battle-hardened horse, all that sort of stuff. So the age factor might not play so much in there. But we talked about Envoy Land already multiple times, and all the way up to the festival about how bloody quick he was. I'm not saying that a 7-year-old can't be quick, but I just feel like in the context of the way that the novice races are going to go, you were exactly right to do that. Heed my advice going forward. Never back a 7-year-old for the Ballymore. It will never win. Unless you're an each-way mug, then fill your boots. Also on that day was the Future Champions Bumper listed race. Utrecht won that for Joseph O'Brien. We haven't seen him since, but I thought this was an okay looking bumper. Duke Up was in third back there. That's come out and won a couple of hurdles now after. I wasn't looking at this horse thinking this is a champion bumper winner, but it was a horse I looked at and thought he's definitely going to be going in my tracker as one to keep an eye on when he goes hurdling. Did you watch the bumper or were you not fussed?
I wasn't fussed, to be honest with you. Captain Guinness was on this day as well, won on this day. So if you go back to the Chelsea as well, like Dame de Company won on this day. There's who else? Mr. Fisher won on this day. Like there's some decent horses that win around this weekend at this time of year. That's definitely worth following. So it's like a big weekend, big time of the year. This like what we was discussing off camera before. If you're not really sort of showing something between the beginning of December and probably the end of January or middle of January, you've got that sort of window for these horses to really be. These are the ones you really want to be focusing on at this particular time. If you were looking for a performance to show at the festival. But yeah, I didn't really focus on the bumper. Like Captain Guinness's performance, but never really screamed never really screamed supreme hurdle horse to me. It was always in the supreme hurdle. You always get those horses a little bit like who was the other one? Who was the other Nicky Henderson? Allard. Like they win really impressively up there, and they're always in the back of your mind. He was one of those that was in the back of my mind and thought he could go well, you know. And then you could start talking yourself into when you sort of see these particular types of horses. So he was one of those again, just in the back of my mind, a bit like Silas Emery. He was in the back of my mind at this point after winning that race, but was never really one I was going to be backing. I don't know why, just the way my mind works, I guess. But look, this time of year, it's just so important to keep an eye on every little detail across both across the water on both sides.
Absolutely, and that's going to become even more transparent when we go into the second half of December. So we'll wrap this episode up to keep it short and sweet.